Hello, friends. Welcome back to Heartscapes, where we're learning the system of Reiki to live lives that are rooted, spacious, connected, and that provision us on the journey back home to ourselves. My name is Michaela. Welcome back to the studio, and welcome to A Storycaster's Loom. This is a monthly offering that I share with folks live, usually unrecorded, but sometimes we take a moment to share it to the broader audience here on ye old YouTubes, and this is such an occasion. So welcome to Storycaster's Loom. I want to just share a little bit about what this space is. I have made other videos about it, but just to kind of circle up around what in the world we're up to today. So to get us started, I want to just share a couple of quotes from a mentor of mine who really inspired me to create this space and did so through the imagination and through her discussions on the far horizon. So Norma Wong is a Zen priest and a former Hawaii state legislator, and she's been a mentor of mine for a number of years. She recently published a book called When No Thing Works. It has a long subtitle that I am not remembering exactly in this moment, so instead of botching it, I'll pop it up here on the screen so you can take a look at it. And in that, she talks about the importance of recognizing where we are in the process of collapse, of structures in our society changing rapidly in a way that's very disorienting, and in ways that very dramatically change our expectations of what the future might hold. She talks about the importance of holding an Indigenous perspective when we think about time, when we think about the future, and to remember that the things that we do now, the actions we take now, ripple into the future, into the far horizon. 100, 200 years from this time, the things we do will matter. And so therefore, what we're paying attention to, what we're imagining for, what we're dreaming of, and therefore what we do and take action around in the world now has implications into the future. And while that can feel heavy and daunting, the purpose of this space is to let that also be generative, creative, to fuel our imagination, to allow our capacity of dreaming and imagining to be the mechanism through which we bear that heaviness and allow it to be alive in our life in a way that feels nourishing rather than overwhelming. Because there is plenty that is causing overwhelm in this time. And so I wanted to create a space where we could lean into ease and spaciousness, even as we're being with and confronting things that are happening now that seem to be pulling things down. So in short, we're heading towards a far horizon, a time in the future beyond what we can see and predict in this moment. We're heading there, but which direction we take, where we are oriented, which far horizon we end up at, depends entirely on what we do now. And what we know from navigation is that tiny changes, tiny shifts in the angle of the trajectory of where we are going, where we are sending our ship, where we are shooting that arrow makes a vast difference in where we end up farther down that line. And so let's pay attention to that as we respond to these times of change, of transition, of at times chaos that can be very frightening. So that being said, I do want to share some words from Norma. So in her book, which I do very much recommend, it is a short read, but it is dense with incredible goodness. And so I've been savoring it quite a bit. Norma says that no child thinks about fiction and imagination and what's real and what's not. They're just in that permeable world. To be in that state of the fruitful beginner's mind is the exercise of telling the future story in concrete terms, and in which thriving is the fiercest possibility. It's rooted in imagining, not, oh, in my dream I imagine and now awaken to the reality. It's casting our dreams forward into reality. I want to really sit with that distinction, the distinction between dreaming in a wishful escapist sort of way. Oh, I'm going to step into my dream to escape reality, and then I'm going to have to go back to reality. This is different. This is bringing our dream forward as a guiding principle, as a compass, to help steer what happens in reality and letting them exist side by side. Norma goes on to say that at the time place when we finally look up and gaze on the horizon, which horizon will we see? Which horizon will we move towards? So that's what we're here to do, is to collectively dream together, to put in concrete terms which horizon we are moving towards. And it's so lovely to be able to be doing this today with a really dear friend and colleague. I'm going to bring her in now. Caryl, welcome to Storycasters Loom.
Thank you.
So some of you may remember Caryl from a few other endeavors that we are in. We are actually in deep collaboration on some really amazing magical things, including a retreat called You Were Born for These Times. We did the first one in February. We are planning for the next one in August. I will definitely be sharing more about that in this space. And Storycasters Loom actually grew out of that retreat. It kind of got its start into that space. But Caryl, I'd love for you to share a bit about the work that you do individually and how that intersects with what we're doing collaboratively, if you like, because you are an amazing astrologer. You are my astrologer, and have been incredibly beneficial as I do my own imagining and dreaming. So tell us a little bit about your work in that realm.
Yeah, so I think that in a time when algorithms profit from our disconnection, my work through Astro Allies and in collaboration with you and Sabrina, it's about building a bridge back to ourselves and to each other. And so for me, astrology really isn't about prediction or performance, it's about relationship. And so what I like is that it's about helping people understand how to work with the sky, not just under it. So
Mm.
whether I'm reading a birth chart, leading ritual, or facilitating a cosmic dialogue, I'm inviting folks to remember your life is not random, it is rhythmic. You have allies in the planets, in your own patterns that have been happening all your life that I can perhaps name for you without even really knowing you. And you're like, wait a minute, why does that resonate? Why does that sound like something I went through back when? Or why do I feel like I've been curious about what is going to go on in this area of my life, given where it's coming, where it's going? And you're speaking to this. And so in people like me who've studied those kinds of mysteries, the astrological mysteries, and live them in real time, the work I do that extends that is, I feel, when I collaborate with people who can make add richness and depth to the astrological question. So together with you, with Michaela and Sabrina, we lead this retreat where together we don't just offer classes, we hold space for transformation rooted in justice, in grief, and in embodiment with cosmic play. And we know what it's like to grieve the world as it is and still show up with glitter on our cheekbones and plan for collective healing because Michaela brings the wisdom of the body, Sabrina channels the tarot and their shadows, and I bring the sky and its truth. And together, we don't offer an escape. I feel like we offer tools. And that kind of labor, that kind of lineage is the kind of work that doesn't really fit neatly into capitalists like capitalism spreadsheets, but you feel it when it's missing. You feel it when you're lost. And so you feel it when you don't have the language for why your child is melting down again or why their relationship keeps circling the same drain. Astro Allies for me helps you make sense of that without shame, without jargon, and always with the option to laugh mid-apocalypse. So if you ever feel like astrology could be more than memes and you wish for a space for pleasure, insight, grief, and strategy could coexist, you're not alone. We were born for these times and we're doing this work for realsies.
Yes, yes, I love that. Um, it's so necessary. I mean, when I first started doing, political work, activist work 25 years ago or more, there wasn't a lot of joy and humor and laughter. There was certainly not ridiculousness, and it was missing. I didn't know it was missing, but it was absolutely missing. And so to insist on joy and humor and laughter and glitter and silliness and random stories about chaotic chickens that just spiral out of control in a text thread is essential for the kind of revolution that that we are up to now. Um, I always go back to, is it Emma Goldman said a revolution without dancing is not one that I want to be a part of. I'm paraphrasing. So good to be in collaboration with you and Sabrina, who, as you probably picked up from what we just heard, Sabrina is the third collaborator for You Were Born for These Times, and she is a brilliant tarot reader. All right, so with that, let's step into our work today. So in each Storycaster's Loom, we go through a meditation that we'll do in a sec and allow ourselves to focus on a particular aspect of society, of our lives, of family, of culture, and to imagine a time in the far future where that aspect of life is in its fullest, most beautiful, healthy, robust, joyful form that we can imagine. And that'll look different for everybody, and that's okay, right? We're not all going to describe the exact same thing. But if we think about, a time when the world is in alignment with life and health and joy and love, what will this aspect of life look like? Now, that's a tall order, but I promise you, your imagination is up to the task, and we're going to guide you through some visualizations for that. And these things are iterative. What comes for you today, as you, dear watcher, join us in this meditation, which is your invitation, that you allow this to be iterative, that what comes for you today will be different than what might come for you next week. You might want to refine what you end up writing. Let this be raw, let it be rough, and let yourself return to it again and again. And I will be inviting you, if you wish, to share what you write, the story that you cast with us. We're collecting stories from this space to help kind of create that collective vision. So those themes that we work with monthly are intended to be responsive to things happening in the moment, and also just responsive to what feels most alive to each of us in that time. And right now we're recording this on June 11th, 2025. And there is quite a bit of activity going on in the United States, particularly in the southern part of my state, California, around raids on immigrant communities, and quite a bit of manufactured chaos and violence, and using certain policies as an excuse to stir up quite a bit of difficulty and chaos in those areas. And it's really front of mind for many of us. So I wanted to invite us to imagine today is a time when our relationship with borders, with immigration, with the boundaries that divide people groups. That can be national borders, it can be borders within a nation, it can be borders from family to family, right? The boundaries that hold us and them separate exist all over, right? And so there are different ways of thinking about those boundaries and those borders. They don't have to look the way they look. We don't have to regard people from other places in the way that we currently regard them. There's a lot of different ways of thinking about that. We won't all think about it the same. So this isn't, we don't all have to come up with the same vision for this. But the invitation is to imagine a time when our relationship to borders, to immigration, to the boundaries that divide us and them, whoever that might be, are in alignment with our greatest healing, with joy, with love, with connection, and with sustainability. So that is our theme today. Anything that you want to add to that, Cuddy?
Yeah, when thinking about borders, I feel like there's a lot of urgency and survival, but rarely in terms of imagination and the far horizon do we think about a reflection that is shaped into something that we can share with each other, that is ready to invite one another to each other's imagination, to the place of creative potential within us when we think about a social issue that is so salient and emotionally pulling. And spaces like the Storycaster's Loom create a clarifying space where that flow can happen and center it around is such a big issue, right? It's such a potent issue that when we center it around a particular theme or a particular type of quote and a meditation, we really allow for what can otherwise feel throttled because there's just so much about it, and opinions and desires and human rights, right? So much that we can actually create a pin and allow for that flow to occur through the use of language. And so I have a complicated relationship, like many of us do, right? To what is our like immigration and border control and the creation of borders themselves in a post-colonial world. And it is one of my most favorite writers is Gloria Anzaldúa, who wrote about borderlands, right? Just about what it means to be from both here and there, and to have that diasporic relationship that is always unfolding. And so I am just grateful that you offer this space.
Beautiful. All right, friends, and with that, let us settle in for some meditation, a little bit of guidance in this. So I'm going to invite each of us to just take a moment to settle into the space where you are. If you've been with me in other practice videos or other classes, you'll be familiar with this process of first just listening to your body. What does your body need to feel supported, to feel comfortable, to feel easefully alert, so that your breath can flow and your body can settle on your exhale into the support below you. Making any small adjustments or stretches that you need to let yourself settle as much as you can in this moment. Taking a deep breath. And as you inhale, allowing your belly to soften into the inhale, to expand with your breath, to make space. To make more space inside of you for the breath. And as a result, allowing your body to take up a little more space in the room as you inhale. And easefully exhale. And as you breathe in this way, resting your attention on your inhale as you draw in, inviting your attention to come inward, to call back your focus from wherever you've spent it today, to rest on your inhale and draw your attention in and down, all the way down into your low belly. Just below your belly button and deep in the center of your body. This energy center that is earthy and rooted and stable, nourishing, resourced. This home of your true self, free of fear, free of anger, free of grief. Because those emotions move through and process and give you what you need, and then they move along, so that the truth of your being can shine brightly, which is that you are love and you are joy. Just take a couple of breaths here. And as we continue to breathe in and down together, drawing our attention down into this home that we carry with us, I invite you to notice a sense of coming home as you come into your center. A sense of belonging to yourself and to this earth, to your own body. As we just heard, our relationships with the questions of borders, the divisions between us and them, and the transit between those borderlands is complex. Each of us in our own relationship to it. And at the heart of that complexity, I believe, is the question of home. Where do we belong? Who belongs here with us and who doesn't? And how do we relate to those that feel like they're not from here? How do we relate to our own self when we want to journey into the unknown, to move to another place? So I'm going to invite you in the next few rounds of breath to bring up the question of what is my relationship to borders and to immigration and the movement across borders by various people for various reasons. And I invite you to do this without judgment, without condemnation, because these feelings are complex and sometimes contradicting. Just take a few breaths and allow yourself a fearless inquiry. What is my relationship to borders, to immigration, to those who cross borders for many reasons, including my own self, when that is true? And from this perspective of your own relationship with it, I invite a fearless inventory of what is true now in our nation, in our communities, in your own family. Allow yourself to recognize that there is deep hurt being done associated with how our society relates to borders. And I invite you to imagine the possibility that this could be very different. And as we orient ourselves, as we tune our compass to the far horizon that is aligned with beauty and healing and joy and compassion, I invite you to reflect on a series of questions when you think about what the world could be regarding these issues. And so let's take 3 breaths, and as we exhale, imagine casting your dream, casting your imagination far into the distance, into the future, into the far horizon. Let's take 3 breaths together to cast. And now from the time space of the far horizon, I invite you to imagine yourself looking around in this place where the problems and the challenges and the pains and the injustices related to borders and immigration have disappeared. These things have been resolved in the direction of joy and beauty and compassion and interconnection. What will you see happening and growing in your community and in the communities adjacent to yours? And as we go through each of these questions, I invite you to be with the question, letting whatever comes forward without judgment, just noticing. You don't have to force an answer. There might be questions that you don't feel that you have an answer to. That's perfectly fine. We're going to just be with these questions. What do you see happening and growing in your community in the time space of the far horizon? Let's take a couple breaths here. What do you hear? What do you hear yourself and others saying to each other? What scents do you notice drifting on the breeze? How do your other senses engage in this time space? What are the children doing? The elders? How are they relating to each other? And as you relate to others in this space, how do you feel in your body? And what other problems have disappeared or been solved in order to lead to this new reality? And or what other problems have disappeared because this one was solved? Is there anything else that your dream self wishes to show you about this point in the far horizon? Let's take 3 more breaths together here, just allowing what you've noticed to be present. Giving yourself a gesture of completion. What we dream can be through the strength of our action, and so may it be. May it be so.
So to be.
I'm going to invite us back into this space together. I'm going to put on the screen some writing prompts, and you can use these writing prompts to capture in writing some of what came for you. You can create your own prompts, use them to the degree they're useful, get them kind of put in a rough form. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll start there. So for those of you on the watching, I'm going to just go ahead and pause the video here so you don't see us writing for 10 minutes. Take as long as you need to do this writing with these prompts, and meet us back on the other side. All right, friends, welcome back. So we just took a good long time to do some writing, and we are back with you for our closing, which is to weave these stories together. And so I'm going to invite Caryl to begin, just share what you wish to share from your writing, and then I will follow you. And the way that we do this ritual, especially when there's a large group of us, is that when each person speaks, we affirm what the person before them said, and then say our own by using the phrase yes and to begin what we share. So go ahead, my friend. Cast your story into the far horizon.
The beautiful world that's emerging is quilted together from the remnants of grief and the glitter of refusal. It is a borderless, world, not in chaos, but in kinship. It is a world where freedom of movement is as natural as breath, and no one is punished for wanting to belong. It is a world that remembers its indigenous memory, where migration is honored as ceremony and borders have been composted into offerings, thresholds, not fences. The world is lush with possibility, built not on extraction, but on reciprocity. I see people walking without fear, children born without numbers, oceans without checkpoints. I see altars at every former detention site, tended by grandmothers who remember and by youth who never had to forget. I see marketplaces under trees. I see welcome signs written in every dialect. I see open pathways traced with wildflowers, multilingual murals singing greetings in 1,000 other languages, children playing in the ruins of old border walls, now turned into climbing gardens. I see maps drawn by dreamers, not by generals. I see people walking freely, not fleeing. I hear lullabies in many tongues. I hear the click of ancestral beads, not the clang of chains. I hear poetry on loudspeakers instead of policy. I hear laughter echoing off the walls of once silent embassies, now community kitchens. I also hear laughter without tension. Stories passed between generations like precious seeds. The sound of footsteps not chased, but danced. I hear the wind moving through land no longer claimed. I hear the ancestors exhaling, finally. In this world, our children and our elders are regarded as carriers of wisdom and vision, not burdens, not ghosts of utility. They are never torn from each other by lines on paper. Children learn history from the mouths of those who lived it, not textbooks scrubbed clean. Elders are carriers of belonging. They are the compass. They are the circle. Both are free to wander, to root, to teach, to be. No more will we accept attention as policy. No more will we confuse legality with morality. No more will we pretend not to see who suffers at our thresholds. No more will we guard what was never ours to hoard. No more do we let fear masquerade as order. Because in this beautiful world, we move like breath. We root without needing to prove why. We honor difference as divine. We repair, we reimagine, we remember ourselves to each other. We are interdependent and unapologetic. We know that healing doesn't require borders. We understand that land cannot be owned. We understand that to move is sacred and that every arrival is a homecoming. As I dream it, so it grows, and so I commit to casting stories that break open the myth of separation. I commit to offering rituals that reweave belonging, to tending the borderlands within myself, transforming fear into invitation. I commit to daydreaming aloud until the dream becomes muscle memory. I commit to tending the soil of imagination, to defending those who move through the world with hope in their bags and prayers in their shoes. I commit to being one of many who remember that freedom isn't a future, it's a practice, and we get to practice.
Yes, and in the far horizon, humanity has evolved past borders that divide us from them and into boundaries positioned at the place where we can love us and them simultaneously. In this space, the lines between us and them are blurred, they fade, and become a tapestry of we, sovereign and unique, and also connected. I see structures of cross-cultural connection and communication codified and prioritized at every layer of society, from preschool to government bodies. I hear conversations in these spaces that explore shared values as the bedrock of connection across difference and that inform and infuse mediation of conflict and restorations of relationship. The sacred values across humanity have become the gold standard of where we focus our attention not the differences that in the past seemed important enough to divide us and cause us to act violently towards each other. In this world, our children grow up so loved and valued that their own value is not questioned, and they are guided from the earliest days to recognize those same values in others, no matter how different from them. Our elders are looked to as keepers of culture and connection. And because long ago, societies the world over embraced environmental sustainability, de-escalation of capitalist models of consumption, and mutual aid, no more will we feel driven by the need to hoard resources or extract them from other peoples. Because in this beautiful world, we know deep in our bones that there is no me without we, no us without them, and compassionate connection is the world's driving value. As I dream it, so it grows, and so I commit to continue softening my own internal resistance to difference, to others, and to teach my children and my communities how to do this as well. May it be so, and so it shall be through the individual, tiny, persistent actions of all of us over time. Friends, I invite you to add your story to this weaving. So if you wish, in the comments, I invite you to share what came up for you. It might be a single phrase from your meditation. It could be the whole thing, however much you want to share. And I invite you to begin that sharing with the phrase yes and, to affirm those who have come before you. If you want to participate in one of these gatherings live, we hold them once a month live on Zoom, and I will put the link to the next ones down below. Thank you so much for dreaming with us, for engaging your imagination, for holding a space of possibility and being able, or at least willing to try, holding the tension between what is in this moment and what absolutely can be in the future, a future that is centered on compassion, on love, on joy, and on healing, not only for all people and all people groups, but for the earth herself, who is our home, our mother, our eternal teacher, and how to be alive. Thank you so much for joining us as you move into your day. May you feel deeply provisioned for whatever it brings. I love you. Until next time, goodbye.